When we read the parable of the widow, we can see a few different things going on in her head. Remember, whether the story happened literally or that Jesus meant it specifically as an allegory, the story still gives us very valuable information about God. In Luke 18:1-18, it reads, "Now he was telling them a parable to show that at all times they ought to pray and not to lose heart, saying, in a certain city there was a judge who did not fear God and did not respect man. There was a widow in that city, and she kept coming to him, saying, 'Give me legal protection from my opponent.' For a while he was unwilling, but afterward he said to himself, 'Even though I do not fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow bothers me, I will give her legal protection. Otherwise, by continually coming, she will wear me out.' And the Lord said, 'Hear what the unrighteous judge said. Now will not God bring about justice for his elect who cry to him day and night? And will he delay long over them? I tell you that he will bring about justice for them quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?'" This parable gives us information about 4 different things: forgiveness, healing, judgment, and consistency. The widow was seeking judgment or recompense against someone or people who had hurt her. Put yourself in her place and consider a time when someone hurt you. Did you go to God for judgment and recompense? We are told to forgive someone 70 times 7, which is in Matthew 18:2, and also to seek and find him, meaning Jesus, which is in Matthew 7:7, Luke 11:9-10, and Jeremiah 29:13. Since we are to seek him for everything, it would make sense why Scripture calls him our tower of safety, or our strong tower, which we are to run to in Proverbs 18:10. We gotta remember, though, that Scripture uses a ton of metaphors and allegory to bring forth spiritual ideas and truth. If we go running to him when we are hurt and needing justice, then that looks like us going into our secret place, whatever that looks like for you, and pouring out your heart to him, just like you would do to your best friend and or trusted confidant. Unfortunately, how often do we have a mindset that we have to go beg God to do something? Instead, know that he is our Father, and he will bring justice to those who have wronged us, which is what Jesus is trying to show us. How often do we just gossip and speak bad of the person or people instead of going to God regarding the situation? Everyone has to do it in their life, but what Jesus is showing us here is a different way. In this parable, the king is deemed unjust due to him not caring about people. After numerous attempts by the widow, the ruler decides to give in and give her what she asks for. This shows consistency, but also the desire for judgment. Frequently in this life, we seek judgment on those who have hurt us, but Scripture tells us to seek God for judgment, because he says that vengeance is his. This is where consistency and trusting that he will do it comes in. We continue to knock on the metaphorical door while knowing that he will take care of the indiscretion. Where does forgiveness and healing come into picture, though? Forgiveness and healing comes in where we go to God. In the literal perspective, the 70 times 7 can relate to us forgiving them over and over and over again until we no longer feel any emotional response to that person or people when they come to our minds or when we hear their name. This can take quite a long time to do, which is why it is said that we forgive them over and over again, even if their indiscretion was done once, many days, months, or years in the past. We know and are shown that we cannot allow seeds of bitterness and unforgiveness to grow inside us. We see this concept in the parable of the seeds. Looking at this in the allegorical form, anything can be a seed planted in us. We, as the dirt, can have anything planted inside of us. It's much easier to have something negative planted and growing inside of us than it is to have something positive. This is due to the fact that we live in a world filled with negativity. Negativity and evil thrive where there is a lack of positivity and godliness, which is why Jesus came to begin restoring the godliness. It is more difficult to plant and consistently water a positive, godly attribute, attitude, and mindset. In order to avoid bitterness and unforgiveness growing inside us like trees, we must work with God to give Him the hurt and forgive those who have hurt us, regardless of how deep and damaging the injury was. This is where the consistency of going to Him and working with Him. Since we know that forgiveness isn't a one and done deal, it's a consistent thing until the emotional wound of the indiscretion no longer brings up any emotional or mental reaction. We must remember, emotional wounds from any indiscretion is the spiritual parallel of a physical wound that we bleed from our skin from. In this parable, the widow consistently goes to the unjust ruler for judgment, but the passages state that Jesus said God will bring justice to those who consistently pray and cry to Him about their hurts. During the process of praying to Him about the injustice, He uses this time to heal us and for us to grow with Him. Thus, during the process, He brings about a mindset that is based on continued dependence on Him and moves us away from the thoughts and ideas of gossip and meditation on the injustice, thus bringing us into a more Christ-like thought process. We must remember, though, that this is a blueprint, an idea, a concept of how we are to function and act in this life, because we all know that this will happen multiple times in this life. So with this blueprint, it's something that He is trying to hammer into our head so that whenever an indiscretion occurs in the future, we know, oh, wait, we need to go to God. I need to go to God in my secret place, in my closet, in my room, whatever it looks like, and talk to Him and see what needs to be done, what I need to pray, when I need to speak out in order to start the healing process and stop this tree from growing inside of me.